What do you want to take from this one Sunday night, the last home game of this stand against Oklahoma City?
Just try to keep the wins going. Continue to protect home floor. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
For the first time ever, the Memphis Grizzlies are actually listening to trade offers for Ja Morant, and that's wild. This isn't some random rumor either. This has been brewing for a long time. We've been watching this story unfold for nearly a year and a half. Between the suspensions, the injuries, and the rocky start to this season with the new coach, things have been shaky for Ja in Memphis. The chemistry just wasn't clicking, and the new system didn't seem to fit his style at all. You could just feel the tension building between Ja and the organization. It got to a point where everyone started wondering if this partnership was doomed to fall apart. And now it's looking like that split might finally happen. Teams have been calling, and unlike before, the Grizzlies are actually open to trading him. That's a big shift because Memphis was never willing to even discuss moving their star before. The front office seems confident in their young core, guys like Crick Coward, Zach Edey, Jalen Wells, and of course Desmond Bane. They believe in these players. The idea is to move forward, retool around them, and probably keep Jaren Jackson Jr. as a major piece of the rebuild. We're going to dive into what this all means, which teams could make a move, and how much value Ja still holds right now. But before that, I've got one big question. Why should the Ja Morant situation be seen any differently than Trae Young's? Seriously, think about it. Both are high-value guards, both flashy and explosive, both the face of their franchises at one point. But when you break it down, the story sounds almost identical. Trae got moved for practically nothing, an expiring CJ McCollum deal and Corey Kispert, and that's wild when you realize what kind of name Trae once was. Why did that happen? It wasn't just bad luck, it was a mix of injuries, inconsistent play, and a roster that just didn't fit around him anymore. Teams around the league started looking at him like, yeah, he's talented, but is he really worth that contract? And once that doubt sets in, the trade value plummets. The Hawks were clearly ready to move on, especially with that player option looming for next year. They wanted freedom, not more uncertainty. Now let's look at Ja. How is it any different? You've got the same talking points: injuries, a massive contract, up and down performances, and a team that's struggling to build the right mix around him. And the league isn't blind to it. Teams know his style, his ceiling, and his risks, just like with Trae. So really, what's separating these two stars right now? If Trae got traded for that kind of return, what makes anyone think Ja's market value is going to be any higher? And let's be real, you've also got to factor in Ja's off-court stuff, which adds another layer of concern. So again, why is the Trae Young situation treated so differently from Ja Morant's? On paper, they sound almost the same. But if we go off what Shams has been reporting, the difference might come down to demand. When Trae was on the market, it felt like Washington was the only team really interested in taking him on. The Hawks didn't even get a first-round pick out of it. They just wanted to unload the contract and move forward. That deal wasn't about value, it was about escape. But according to what Shams is saying now, the Ja Morant market looks completely different. Supposedly, there are multiple teams calling Memphis right now, teams actually willing to give up serious pieces, first-round picks, young talent, and maybe even both. That's a whole different energy than what Trae got. The only explanation, these front offices around the league must believe Ja still has that superstar ceiling. They see him as a player who can bounce back, shake off the controversy, and return to that all-NBA level he once had. Some teams clearly believe his game and maybe even his reputation can be rebuilt with the right environment and leadership. Now, personally, I'm not fully buying that hype yet, but based on what's being reported, there are definitely franchises out there betting that Ja can clean up his image, get healthy, and remind everyone exactly why he was once seen as one of the most electric players in the entire league. It's wild that people still believe Ja can bounce back to what he used to be, because honestly, he hasn't looked great this season, not even in the games he's managed to play. But let's talk specifics. What teams could actually take a swing at him? Let's go down the list and see who might even make sense. The Pistons? Nah, that's a no. They're rebuilding and already dealing with enough chaos.
Ja, how much better was the sense of urgency for you guys in getting off to the start that you got off to tonight?
It was big time. I feel like it started yesterday in practice. Everybody pretty much came in locked in, and then, we came into John through scout team thing this earlier today, and we had the same energy, same mentality, and you see how it translates. So.
The Knicks? Nope. They're locked in with Brunson and chasing consistency. The Celtics? Definitely not. They're chasing titles and don't need a shakeup like that. The Raptors? Maybe, but they're in the middle of figuring out their own direction. Philly? No shot. They've got Tyrese Maxey running things beautifully. Orlando? Not likely. They've already got Desmond Bane, and they're not about to rebuild the old Memphis backcourt. Miami? Now that's interesting. The Heat love taking chances on stars who need a second act. Cleveland? Nah, Darius Garland already holds that spot. Atlanta? Just traded Trae Young, so they're definitely out. Chicago? Doesn't make sense. They're stuck in the middle of nowhere. Milwaukee? Maybe, but their trade assets are super limited, so it would be complicated. Charlotte? They've already got LaMelo, so no need there. Brooklyn? Now that's a sneaky option. They've got pieces, flexibility, and a need for a star to build around. Washington? Just brought in Trae, so that's a no. Indiana? Not happening. They've got Tyrese Halliburton lighting it up. Now, if we shift our eyes towards the Western Conference, that's where things might start to get spicy. OKC? Nah, they're loaded with young talent and already building something special around Shea. San Antonio? No chance. They're focused on developing Wemby, not taking on a star with baggage. Denver? No way. They've got their core locked in and a system that already works. Minnesota? Maybe, but the money situation makes that deal tough to pull off. The Lakers? Hard no. They've got enough drama already. Houston? Doesn't make sense. That team's chemistry is clicking right now, and they're chasing serious playoff noise. Phoenix? Nah, they're all in on their current big three. Golden State? Nope, doesn't fit their timeline or system. Portland? They could use a guard, but I don't think Ja's game blends well with what they're trying to build. Dallas? No, they've already got Kyrie, and that backcourt's already crowded. The Clippers? Now that's one to watch. They've got Harden on an expiring deal, and if they really wanted to shake things up, maybe they could make something work. Utah? Probably not. They've got Keontae George developing fast and don't need to interrupt that growth. The Kings? Now that's interesting. They love pace and flair, and Ja could fit that vibe perfectly if the culture matched up. The Pelicans? No, they're already heavy with guards and wings.
So that's the rundown. Literally every single team in the league. And honestly, it's hard to find a perfect landing spot for Ja Morant. But if I had to circle a few possible fits, Brooklyn stands out. They were rumored to be somewhat curious about the Trae Young talks before, and with the right setup, Ja could give them that spark they've been missing. Ja's defense definitely isn't his strong suit, but in Brooklyn, he could play the same role Trae Young did for Washington, a backcourt leader to help pull a young roster together. The Nets have all these promising players, but they're still missing that true star presence who can command the floor and set the tone. Just like the Wizards, the Nets probably want to be competitive again next season. They could easily sit Ja for the rest of this year, let him heal up, get right mentally and physically, and use this season to stock assets. Brooklyn's sitting on a handful of tradable picks, and moving one or two wouldn't really hurt them long term. Then next year, they could roll out a reloaded core with Ja leading the way, a potential high lottery pick from this year, and all those young talents developing together. That's a vision that actually makes sense. Miami though, that's where things get tricky. Sure, on paper you could piece together a deal, but I just don't see the fit. The Heat culture is intense, built on discipline and grind, and I'm not convinced Ja's playstyle or personality meshes well with that. It just doesn't feel like a smooth match at all.
You talked a lot about spacing the other night after the game. Was that much better tonight, and is it because of knocking down shots?
Yeah, for sure. It kind of went away in the second half. We got kind of lax and was pretty much just standing, and that caused us some problems. So we just got to be consistent with that. Our movements, continue to do your job, and just have that trust that your teammates will do the same.
As for Toronto, they seem to be exploring everyone. Reports even suggest they've poked around big names like Anthony Davis, which is crazy. But honestly, if I'm the Raptors front office, I'd hesitate on Ja. They've already got expensive pieces, a few players with durability issues, and adding Ja to that mix might just make things more complicated than it needs to be. I get the upside that Ja Morant could bring to a team. His energy, his playmaking, his star power, it's all there. But honestly, if I'm building a roster, I'd rather invest in a strong front court piece than stock up even more guards. Why bundle multiple backcourt players just to land Ja when your team already has balance issues? Take Minnesota, for example. We've had this same conversation with them over and over every time a big-name, high-salary guard hits the market. But making the money work for someone like Ja is a nightmare. You'd have to move guys like Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, and Mike Conley, basically tearing apart your rotation just to bring in one player. Sure, the idea of adding Ja sounds exciting, but once you look at how that would actually fit spacing-wise and contract-wise, it gets messy real fast. And even though the Timberwolves could really use another dynamic guard, Ja might not be the one that solves their puzzle. His style could clash with their rhythm, especially since their offense is built around bigs and spacing, not someone constantly attacking the rim. Now, the Clippers, that's where things might get a little more interesting. If they reach a point where they feel their current setup has run its course, they could consider something bold. Imagine them flipping James Harden's expiring deal and maybe a future pick or two for Ja. It's risky, but it could be the kind of gamble that completely changes their identity. Maybe the Clippers could pull off something creative, trade Ivica Zubac, grab a few picks, and then flip those assets to Memphis in a deal with Ja Morant. Sounds wild, right? But there's a big snag in that plan. James Harden's contract basically gives him a de facto no-trade clause this season. Because of the terms he signed in the offseason, he pretty much controls where he goes. And let's be honest, there's no way he's packing his bags for Memphis unless he really wants to, and that's highly unlikely. That alone could kill any chance of that scenario happening. So here's where my confusion kicks in. I just don't get the timing of all this. Why is Memphis suddenly open to trading Ja now, especially after seeing what Trae Young just got dealt for? When you compare their situations, their value feels pretty close. Both have similar upsides, concerns, and market skepticism. If the Grizzlies truly believed Ja's trade value was at Trae's level, wouldn't it have made more sense to pull the trigger earlier when the market was still soft and expectations were clearer? Or maybe Washington just didn't want Ja, plain and simple. There are so many moving parts behind the scenes that we'll probably never know the full picture. But still, this timing feels off. Why make the move now when the return might not match the hype? And what's even more confusing is that reports from Shams suggest multiple teams actually see real value in Ja right now. That's surprising, and honestly, it makes me wonder what those front offices are betting on that the rest of the league clearly isn't. I'll admit it, I was wrong before about the whole trade value angle, but honestly, I'd still be shocked if Memphis manages to pull in any major assets for Ja Morant right now. Think about it, this is a player who even when he was at his best wasn't consistently available. Add in the off-court headlines, the suspensions, and the uncertainty, and you've got a tough sell for most front offices. On top of that, Ja's not the easiest fit for a lot of teams. He's not a three-point shooter, which limits how he meshes with certain lineups, and teams can't ignore the questions that keep circling around him. What's the next Ja headline going to be? Will there be another suspension? Is there going to be another on-court incident that throws everything off? That constant worry hangs over any team thinking about giving up valuable picks or players for him. And right now, he's just not producing like the Ja Morant people used to talk about. This isn't all-star Ja. It's definitely not all-NBA Ja. His rhythm's off, his confidence seems shaky, and the spark that made him must-watch basketball hasn't shown up this season. So yeah, I'm confused completely. If I had to make a call right now, I'd say Ja doesn't get traded at all. He stays in Memphis because I just don't see another team offering enough to make it worth it. And honestly, if you're the Grizzlies, why would you want to repeat what the Ahogs just did with Trae Young, trading away a big-name talent for minimal return? It just doesn't make sense for Memphis. Not now, not like this. First off, I don't even think there's a real market option out there right now. Washington was probably the only team that made sense for a situation like this, where you've got a franchise with a big expiring contract they're willing to move, like they did with Trae Young. But when it comes to Ja Morant, his deal runs longer than Trae's, and that changes everything. If you're Memphis, what's really the point of taking back an expiring deal when you're still tied to Ja for years to come? It just doesn't add up. At this point, it feels like Memphis is in a situation similar to New Orleans with Zion Williamson. They'd rather wait it out. See if Ja can get healthy, get his focus back, and rebuild both his game and his value. Why trade him now when his stock is at rock bottom? That's just bad business. For Atlanta, moving Trae made sense. They knew they were done with that chapter. They didn't want to risk losing him for nothing in free agency, and the player option made the timing make sense. But Memphis isn't in that spot. They're not about to just toss Ja away for scraps, especially when there's still a chance he could bounce back and remind everyone why he was once considered one of the most electric players in the league. Now hey, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe there are 3 or 4 teams calling right now, ready to drop serious offers for Ja Morant. But based on everything we've seen and the way Trae Young's situation played out, it's hard to believe Ja's trade value is sitting anywhere near what Memphis would actually want in return. So at the end of the day, the Ja Morant situation is one of the trickiest stories in the league right now. Memphis is clearly at a crossroads. They've got to decide if they still believe in Ja's long-term potential or if it's time to move on and rebuild around their younger core. The talent is still there, no doubt about it, but the question is whether any team out there is willing to bet on it right now. From the outside looking in, it feels like the Grizzlies are just trying to buy time. Maybe they're hoping Ja gets back on track, both on and off the court, so they can either commit to him fully or boost his trade value again. Because right now, his stock is nowhere near where it used to be, and trading him for pennies on the dollar would be a disaster move. The next few months are going to tell us everything, whether Memphis stands firm or if some Bulls GM decides to roll the dice and give Ja a fresh start somewhere else. This could end up being one of the biggest storylines of the season. What do you think? Should Memphis stick it out with Ja, or is it time for both sides to move on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell so you don't miss the next update, because trust me, this story is far from over.